Hi everybody, I'm Christina Lavner. I'm the oncology dietitian here at Summit Health. Today we're going to be talking about healthy survivorship. So welcome. We're going to start off with, okay, treatment's done, now what? Everyone typically will get right onto the computer and start Googling, healthy survivorship. There's a few things that we have to point out that's very important. One is that's going to create a lot of food anxiety, like what should you eat or not should you eat. And 90% of the information on the internet is based on someone's opinion or on them wanting for you to buy their product. So we have to be very careful where we're getting our information from and that we're getting it from validated sources. And it's important to note that no food can cure cancer. When you start looking into healthy survivorship, there's going to be a lot of information about an anti-inflammatory diet. An anti-inflammatory diet is important because we know that chronic inflammation leads to disease development in the body. So anything that's animal-based product is going to lead to inflammation. Not that you have to become vegan, but we definitely want to reduce the amount of red meat that we're eating. Gut health is important for everyone, whether you've been diagnosed with cancer or not. It leads us to the research of the human biome. What it says is that in our gut, we have 100 trillion different types of bacteria. All that bacteria is super important. We want to make sure it's strong, healthy, and balanced, because when our gut is balanced, it creates a synergistic platform for us to be able to stand on to be as healthy as we possibly can be. We know that bacteria as probiotic. So that's important, but what's really important is how we grow that probiotic. When we eat prebiotics, or fruits, vegetables, and high fiber foods, when we digest it, we're breaking it down and that's growing our gut flora. That's creating that synergistic platform. We want to make sure that we're not just eating one type of fruit and vegetable though. We want to make sure we're eating the rainbow of colors, because the different colors of fruits and vegetables match a different type of bacteria in our gut. And remember what I said, we want to balance our gut. So when we eat all those different colors, it's creating that synergistic platform that we want to have. Now, ideally, we want our plate to look like this. We want half our plate to be fruits and vegetables, a quarter to be protein, a quarter to be carbohydrate. Now the protein can be a little bit bigger if we want to reduce the amount of carbohydrate that we're eating and eat a little bit more vegetables, that's fine too. We want to make sure that the half of the plate is always fruits and vegetables. Fiber is your friend. When we talk about fruits and vegetables, it's all about the fiber. The recommendation is 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Now that's a general goal. Some people will be able to eat more fiber. Some people will have to eat less. And it's not good or bad. It's just what your body can handle. But just use that as a general guideline. When we increase our fiber intake, it's going to not only reduce our risk of cancer, but other diseases as well. It's going to also prevent adult weight gain. And that's very important. We want to make sure that we're eating our fiber though, because when we eat that fiber, that's what's growing our gut flora, right? That's creating that synergistic platform. We don't have the enzyme in our belly to break fiber down. So when we eat fiber, I always say that's where the magic's happening. When we're digesting all that good fiber, that's what's growing our gut flora and creating that healthy synergistic platform. When we drink our vegetables or fruit, the machine is breaking down the fiber. So we're getting the calories, but we're not getting the benefit. So it's very important that we're actually eating our vegetables. As we increase our fiber intake, we have to make sure we're increasing our fluid intake, because if we just eat all that good fiber without drinking enough water, it's like putting cement into our GI tract. So it's hand in hand. As we increase our fiber, we increase our fluid. So this way we're not preventing any GI problems. Now, you should be drinking at least half your body weight in water. So if you're 100 pounds, 50 ounces, 200 pounds, 100 ounces, whatever your weight is, divide it in half, and that's how much water you should be drinking in a day. There's a lot of information about sugar feeding cancer. Sugar feeds every single cell in our body. Everything we eat breaks down to sugar, except for protein. Protein has a nitrogen on the molecular structure, so we have to break that down differently. But everything else breaks down to sugar. I don't care if it's coming from a ring ting or a piece of broccoli, it all gets broken down to sugar. The broken down form of sugar in our blood is glucose. Glucose is the gas in our car. Our brain only runs on glucose, our heart only runs on glucose. We absolutely need glucose to survive. So let's pretend you only ate protein food, whatever your most favorite protein food is. What would happen is our body would break down lean muscle or lean mass and make sugar because we absolutely need it to survive. But we don't want to lose lean muscle. We don't want to lose lean mass. So we want to keep all that. So the question really should be, where's your sugar coming from? Is it coming from only the ring dings and processed food and added sugars, or is it coming from fruits, vegetables, and whole grains? If we look at the research, if you eat a diet high in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, you can have a cookie. You're going to metabolize it, it goes away. It doesn't cause a problem. The problem comes in is when you're only eating processed foods, when you're only eating added sugars, and that's your only source of nutrition. You're not eating any of the other healthy things. Years ago, it was believed that soy would increase breast cancer or female estrogen positive cancers. That research came out in the late 90s. And what that research said is that estrogen has a similar molecular structure to soy. And what they found was that the soy was fitting into the estrogen receptor on the cancer cell. And that's where that research stopped. So, everyone freaked out, said women can't have soy. But now jumping forward to today, we have much more detailed research. And yes, soy and estrogen have a similar molecular structure. Yes, the soy fits into the estrogen receptor of the cancer cell. However, now we know because it's not really estrogen, the cancer cell can't use it. So when the real estrogen comes floating along, the soy is acting like a blocker that's in that cancer cell. It's actually reducing cancer risk. It's a 180 recommendation. So it's actually soy is beneficial for women with estrogen positive cancers. A lot of people have a hard time sort of accepting that because we've been told the opposite for so long, which is okay, but just know that you don't have to go crazy eliminating soy from your diet. It's actually a healthy thing for you to do. The question is still around the soy lecithins, which are the added soys, but that's going to be more in processed foods. And we've been talking about plant-based, anti-inflammatory, lots of fruits and vegetables this whole time. So if you're really eating that type of diet, you're not going to even have to worry about the soy lecithins because it's really only in processed foods. Go ahead and enjoy the tofu and tempeh and edamame. They're good for you. There's lots of information out there about supplements. And when I talk about supplements, I'm not necessarily talking about vitamin D and calcium. Those your doctor may have you on, which are very important. You should continue to take those. The things I'm talking about is the extra super like vitamin C's and all the herbal things. Supplements can never replace good health. When we eat food, everything gets metabolized one way. When we concentrate it and capsulize it, it gets metabolized differently. And research showing is when we're taking in those high dose supplements, it's actually causing more cancer. It's actually increasing your cancer risk. So we really want to make sure we're getting everything from food first. There's a great website, and I believe it's on the link here. It's called Memorial Sloan Kettering All About Herbs. That website has all current research on any sort of new herbal products or any things that are coming out. The research isn't there to support the claims that a lot of these companies are saying. So you have to make sure you're being very careful with what you're taking because supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So they could put a sprinkle in of whatever it is that you think you're taking, and then put all these other fillers in there. So we don't really know what you're taking, and it could be very dangerous to you. There are some things that are showing some promise, like turkey tail, and different mushrooms and such, which is great, but the problem is the research isn't there yet to make the recommendations that it's safe to take. So it's a conversation you should have with your doctor, but also to definitely use caution because not every company is created equal. So, to make sure you really know what you're taking. Exercise. Huge piece of the puzzle. Everybody always focuses so much on nutrition, which is very important, don't get me wrong, but exercise is critical. There's been studies done where they've changed nobody's diet, okay? So, one person could eat super healthy, some person could not eat healthy, whatever it was, that was not a variable. The only variable they added was exercise. And what the results of that study showed is that 17 different cancers were reduced by 50 to 55% just by adding exercise. Our bodies are meant to move, so we need to move. And the recommendation at this point is move more, sit less. 150 minutes a week would be ideal. But if you're not quite there yet, just get moving. Even a 15-minute walk or, 10 minutes 3 times a day, that's great. Just keep moving. It's also very important, exercise when we talk about healthy menopause. We want to make sure we're keeping as much lean mass as we possibly can. We don't want to lose lean mass, because when we lose muscle mass, it's not like we just lose it, it goes away. It gets replaced with fat. And when we know as we adult weight gain, if we're gaining fat as an adult, that creates more metabolic change in the body, increasing your cancer risk. So we want to try to keep as much lean mass as we possibly can. So get out there and move. Information overload. Everyone always is overwhelmed. Where do I start? How do I get to do this? And I think by trying to change everything overnight is not realistic. There's an acronym, be SMART. We want to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant or realistic, and time-based. Even if you're making small changes, like this week, all you're going to do is focus on eating a piece of fruit every day. That might be a huge goal for you, and that's great. So just do that every day this week. And then next week, maybe it's eating that piece of fruit and increasing your water intake. And then the next week, maybe it's adding in those vegetables. Small, realistic steps that are going to be obtainable and also going to stay. We don't want to be perfect today and then a mess tomorrow. So we want to make sure we're making small, realistic steps that are going to stick with you for the long term. Along with exercise, like I said before, was that everybody's focused so much on nutrition. But the other thing is, the exercise, but also what we're drinking. Lots of times people will say, oh, I can't lose weight. Okay. And they're eating perfectly healthy. And I'm like, wow, you should be losing weight with what you're eating. But then I find out that they're drinking those huge coffee drinks that are 800, 900 calories each. So sometimes people, even though it's like coffee, it could, with all the added stuff in it, it's a lot of sugar, a lot of added calories. So we have to be very mindful of what we're drinking, not just eating. So to wrap it up, is the American Institute of Cancer Research and the World Cancer Research Fund, their recommendations are pretty straightforward. The first is to be a healthy weight. And we've been talking about that, eating the plant-based diet. We want to stay physically active. We want to move more, sit less. We want to eat that plant-based diet. We want to get in all those good sources of fruits and vegetables and that high fiber diet. We want to limit the consumption of red meat or processed foods. We want to limit the sugar sweet drinks, the added sugary drinks. We want to limit that. And we also want to limit or omit alcohol. And we do not want to use supplements for cancer prevention. So the takeaways are what I like to call the 4 F's. It's fiber, fluid, fitness, and flexibility. We want to make sure we're eating those high fiber foods, that plant-based diet. We want to make sure we're drinking all that good fluid, half our body weight in water. We want to make sure we're being active, but we also want to make sure we're working on our flexibility. Flexibility is super important for as we age, whether we're working on balance or just touching our toes. So we want to make sure we're doing all 4 of those things working together for healthy survivorship. Lastly is the 3 C's. Make the choice, take the chance to create change. It's about progression, not perfection. It's that first step. It's just, like I said, maybe eating a piece of fruit today, maybe adding in more vegetables or more water, whatever you feel is like the biggest thing for you to do first is just start doing, small steps that will eventually lead to big steps. If you guys have any questions or any concerns, you can always reach out to me on the portal, or you can call the office. I'm here in Florham Park. You can also always come in for a visit. Whatever works for you, I'm more than happy to help you out. All right. Good luck, everyone, and be well.